They had major devastating events. These were the type that crushed their civilization. Not wars, not pestilence, but dramatic physical events that literally crushed their civilization back into the cave ages. And we see the devastation in cities in South America, ancient cities that are now being discovered, which were obviously destroyed by massive earthquake type situations. Earth definitely, without question, has had major earth changes that have destroyed entire civilizations, and the indication is that it was not that long ago. The concept of a pole shift, in other words, the Earth moving its either magnetic or physical pole, has come up many times when we hear people talking about Planet X. Mountain ranges would form, oceans would form huge tides, and this would not be something you'd want to face in everyday life. It would be a very violent event.
There's evidence that in the past, such as the Ice Age and mastodons being frozen instantly with still undigested food in their stomach, all over the Earth, there is evidence that in the past we have had polar shifts or some type of cataclysmic event on Earth which happens in cycles over time.
If this is in fact true, there would have to be evidence of these passages, ecological evidence, archaeological evidence that shows the calamitous events that transpired during each passage.
Our Earth gives evidence that we have had periodic pole shifts. There's mountain building in and of itself is evidence. These mountains are like pushed together. If you're in an airplane and you look down at foothills, for instance, it almost looks like a rumpled blanket, like somebody took a blanket and pushed it and rumpled it. Mountains are forced upwards with great masses of rocks snapping. This is signs of great pressure, not the gentle squeezing and pushing that happens with earthquakes at all. Indeed, our Earth has had these periodic pole shifts. You can see that in the evidence of the Earth. Go back every time period and you can see other changes during these passages. And when we have pole shifts and violent geological earthquakes and changes and the like, shifting tipping of the Earth and shifting of the crust, volcanoes explode. And when they do, there's a lot of molten lava pouring out. Well, lava, being molten, will line up with a current magnetic field. And when lava hardens, that's a permanent freeze, indicating the direction of magnetism at that moment in time. Well, this is one way that they have determined the wandering pole theory, where they've identified places in Earth where they say at one time this appears to have been the North Pole, or that appeared to have been the South Pole, is through this frozen lava alignment. For instance, off of Japan, there's cities and roads that they find under the water. In Bermuda, we see roads and walls and the like. Likewise, land can rise. Atlantis is rumored to be a continent that went under the waves during one of these cataclysmic passages.
Back around 1650 BC, or if you want to give it a little more leeway, between 1500 and 1700 BC, there is considerable evidence for a calamitous event. In fact, there are stories from that time showing certain civilizations came and went, certain powers that be were overthrown at the time because of the celestial events that were happening and the earth changes that were happening.
The last passage was during the Jewish Exodus, approximately 3,600 years ago. Nobody knows for sure the exact date, because during these passages, mankind is just discombobulated. They stop keeping records. Records are lost, so nobody can exactly pinpoint the date.
There is a pattern to the cataclysms on Earth. If we go back every 3,600-year period, we see that some major world catastrophe happened. There are other changes happening in the solar system. One such theory says that cow flatulence, believe it or not, is responsible for depleting our ozone layer, which leads to our polar caps melting. But what about Mars? What about Mars's polar caps? They seem to be melting as well. There are many changes happening in the solar system. So what would be influencing our entire solar system as a whole, not just Earth? Observations are being made, and with little notice to the public. This article from CNN tells of a potential killer comet detected with only weeks of warning. In recent times, new planets and outer solar bodies are being discovered and observed. With so much sky to observe, it's no wonder we have so many last-minute reports of potential near misses. Or could there be more that is being downplayed in the media or withheld altogether?
There are a lot of probes that we send to Mars or to the outer planets to do imaging, which could also have black ops projects attached to them that the public isn't going to know about. So if we send an orbiter to Mars to do a main mapping mission, it might have other black ops projects attached to that satellite collecting its own data that we're just not going to know about. And if they need to take into a full account the main mapping mission or take over that project for their own purposes, that satellite is gone. It becomes a black project. And people aren't aware of those facts.
The observatories around the world, many of them are very aware, acutely aware, and very worried about this inbound planet.
You really need to look at what's happening, the weather irregularities, the changes in the Earth, and think of it in terms of these periodic passages and make up your own mind.
We don't have to have a collision for something to affect us. It can affect us at a distance. It could be on the other side of the sun, have a very large discharge into the sun. The sun could erupt with a full coronal discharge, which means it would come off in all directions from the sun, and we would be very affected. Our weather would be very affected, and this new object, Planet X or whatever you would call it, would be very far away from Earth. So the thing I want to stress is that you do not need a direct collision with something to be affected. The government agencies, they are basically under contract not to tell you anything. The scientists have signed non-disclosure agreements. Basically, they're under a gag order. It is impossible to go to a scientist and get a news release directly. You have to go through an official news release agency, and
Okay guys, you're not going to believe this footage I got here. Check this out. This is Comet Elenin right here. You see that? Okay, now the sun is on this side. This is where the sun is. There's an explosion that takes place. Jupiter is over here. This is Comet Elenin. Now watch this. I'm going to play it again. It's coming from right here. You see it skipping across. And as it gets hit by this pulse, it turns to the left and breaks apart. Look at this. Here we go again. It's coming along here, skipping along. This is Elenin. As that pulse hits it, you can see the pulse coming out. It looks like a huge explosion comes off of Jupiter. This could be validating that video that I put out, or that I replayed from my show the other day, where they said that it would be like a capacitor. As this comet gets close to any other bodies, it shoots out kind of an electrostatic kind of thing. It blows up the comet. They said that this possibly could happen again, as it did in 2000 with that other comet, that as it crossed the ecliptic, it hit like a brick wall and blew up. Well, here we go. We got some footage of this. This explosion comes out of Jupiter. The sun is on the other side. Here we go. Look it. I'm going to show it to you again. It's almost like this pulse just comes out and just whacks it with this massive explosion. This is Comet Elenin right here. You see how it turns? Watch this. It's right here. It's coming along. And as soon as this thing hits it, it turns and it just disintegrates. Look at this. See it right there? Boom. Here we go again. See how it just turns and just explodes. It's coming along. Boom. So you're just seeing it really quick now. Boom. Boom. Just fast motion it. Boom. See how it just turns and just explodes. But look at this pulse here. This looks like a massive ejection or some kind of a pulse that just hits it and it breaks it apart. Now I'm sure we're going to have more footage tomorrow, but this is breaking footage right here, guys. Make this viral. Pass this about. I guess we don't have to worry about Comet Elenin. It looks like it has been taken off of its course, at least. I'm sure it's going to be breaking up. But what the heck is this explosion here? This is Jupiter. See, you can see the little Jupiter, J-U. This is Jupiter, and this took place today.
We believe, though we cannot yet prove, that our multiverse of universes is 11-dimensional.
Now, wormholes are predicted by mathematical calculations. It certainly seems to be theoretically possible.
Universe in different dimensions, floating in a much larger arena. And this larger arena is the hyperspace that I talked about originally.
Entrada a la ciudad de la Inca de Machu.
If you look at the trees, you know, it's right here. I mean, it's 300 foot up.
It's very intense, bright lights. I keep hearing that over and over and over, and they spanned a wide area.
Just when you thought there could not be more change going on in the world, magnetic north is moving. Aviators know it has always moved, but not like this. It's just skipping along. It's on the move about 40 miles a year now along the polar cap toward Russia.
Well, hey, get used to it. Einstein was wrong.
Well, a major announcement today by NASA that a new form of life has been discovered right here on Earth.
Where they come from, I don't know. But it's one thing I know for sure. They've landed on Earth and they've come among us.
They keep us homeless. We can't get a job.
Before too long, the evidence will be incontrovertible that you will have on your TV screens and on your movie screens concrete evidence.
We are infected with a lot of them around here, and especially here, around here, and everywhere we look at.
And that they are real, and they're not fantastic things which have been cooked up to make a movie.
It isolates you from other people in population, and then they dope you up.
They ask you, are you an alien?
I don't feel like I belong here.
The unrest is being caused by thugs. They're hired by the system to turn the public against the immigrants. I say follow the money. The job market dry up as a result of this?
Plenty of jobs. They're taking the teenager jobs, the McDonald's jobs, everything.
You better be ready to protect yourself. Because it's one thing I don't understand. What they want.
You're going to see all this change. They know the gig is up. You're encouraging a violent confrontation from people that have done nothing wrong.
The police and any authority, they make you feel like aliens.
Not good. It's not good at all.
One of my friends just disappeared. I think he was abducted.
Pretty soon, there ain't gonna be any humans.
Like black creatures crawling around in it.
They try to make it seem like it's just a horror movie, but it's really not a horror movie. It's really an actual thing, and they use that as a cover-up.
From LA, from Hollywood to Compton.
How long they been here, what they been doing, unexplainable.
I think the government ain't doing nothing to prevent this, and I also believe that they're covering it up with medication.
You never ask a system to teach you values, because the values of the system is all cover. I'm telling you, the system has everyone in their pocket.
They look like us, and they're among us. For all I know, you could be one.
Then they're gonna try to cover it up, and then they're gonna try to bring it out.
Videotaping us, letting your society know this is what's going on Earth.
They're watching us.
And at first I wasn't sure because it was so grainy just watching it, you know, through a couple of levels there. So, but I matched it up in dates, and this is what it looked like before it was washed. Now, the entire world was looking to the right on this exact time. You see the tail of ISUN going in here in the large picture, inky under it. Okay, the whole focus of the entire world was the opposite direction. Well, I checked this thing out, and again, I was recording it on the other cameras on that day. Most people were. And before they got back to the Sechi HI-1A camera, I went back and I got about 4 clips. This thing came in from the left. I was checking it on this gray camera because it will eliminate almost any lens flare that you're dealing with. Okay? But why would they scrub it on the left side, guys? This object, don't know how big it is, came in from the left. They knew the timing it was coming in. They knew to get everyone's attention towards the sun. Comet ISUN was coming in perfect opportunity. We're still watching it. I'm still watching it. These are all enhanced images that I did. Guys, and when the solar flare came across this thing, the shadow of it even changed. Look at this. See how the flare came across ISUN's tail? You see that? And then the object completely changed. The top darkened just like the top of the image, and the light from the solar flare lit up the bottom of it. Now, I analyzed it, sent it back in, and Paul was looking at it today on the show. We were talking about it, called in just for a moment. Here's ISUN coming into the top right, guys. This is a day later. Perihelion had already came around. Kind of, it's the same camera though, just to show you you're not seeing it there. It came through on this camera on that date. Now, we were talking about it on the show, and a fellow called in. He couldn't tell us about himself. He said his name was Mike, worked for the federal government. He said the picture was real, that someone had let it leak out. 4 people had just lost their job about it. But I'm sure Paul will probably archive that video tonight. I'm not sure his schedule on how he does that, guys. Some of you know more about that than I do. But he may have the guy that called in. It's not me. I mean, there was several hundred people on the radio show at that time that heard him call and say the images are real. And guys, I couldn't get them to blend out or to create any type of anything that looked like a lens flare. Now, a couple of things here. You got a small asteroid out to the top left as we're looking at ISUN coming in. Now, I want you to notice something about ISUN here. Is that I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to do a still shot, but it almost appears to be turning. In other words, it looks like a fan from the side. It's actually a cone, like looking at the bottom of it. And there's a shadow on the left side, and it appears to be turning somewhat. That could be natural because of the way the camera's turning. And ISUN should be going in a straight line now. Now, this is Lovejoy. I was looking over on this camera. to see what if Iceland had appeared on it yet, and it has not. But that's Comet Lovejoy. It rises up, and you see it gets a little brighter in the last few images from a solar flare. You see that? Well, I'm going to bring this up. But Lovejoy's still kicking. Now, it's not a sun diver, but this is the area that Iceland will be coming through. You see Mercury and that the star cluster there is the Pleiades. Now, this, I think, is just I think it's something on the lens, guys. I'm not sure. It looks like a Mississippi buzzard. I know someone's going to say Klingon bird of prey. It's moving right there. I don't know. But that's Lovejoy there. And this is the area we're going to be watching for that fan pattern of Iceland if we can pick it up on this camera. Now, check this out. This is the one I had saved that I went back. Did you see what happened on the left? Now, you see the tails of Enki and Iceland going into the sun. You're going to see a couple flashes to the left that look at that solar activity that those comets are creating, guys. There's our image. It's not a sun flare. I mean, a lens flare, guys. But wait, I forgot. You're not supposed to look that way, remember? Don't look back. All eyes to the right. Stay in step. Here's after the flare comes under. Lights up the bottom of the object. Here, they've scrubbed it. There's still a faint circle in the time. Now, we don't know anything about its size because we don't have anything to compare it to. How close was it to the stereo A camera, right? But we do know that it was taken off. Why? We got a caller that sounded official. Sounded like he knew what he was talking about. 4 people lost their job over that image getting leaked to the public. Is there something out there that will make a man's heart fail out of fear, guys? What's going on with this? Don't know. It's a heads up. Be safe.
Ну, я вообще первый раз такой вижу. Как будто оттуда, да, что-то вот, то ли свет, то ли...